Their coffee would join us in a minute. Let me introduce myself. My name is Dr. Hanna Shelest. I'm Director for Security Studies and Global Outreach at the Foreign Policy Council Ukrainian Prism, and I will be moderating the session that we have right now with the wonderful speakers, both from Ukraine and abroad. And if our previous sessions draw your attention to the big politics, cultural diplomacy and everything, we would narrow it to the very practical experience of the daily war and oppression in the different countries. And I hope that this shared experience also will be very useful. Я думаю, що ми почнемо сесію більш з української мови. Я буду, як завжди, стрибати між...
So I think that I'll switch to English, but we'll switch between languages, I think, going forward. So let me invite the speakers that are going to share their experiences for the coming 90 minutes. Mikhailo Linetsky, Deputy Head of Kherson Military Administration. Sumon Tant, the expert anti-Asia-Pacific senior analyst at ECLED, Myanmar. Serhiy Ivashchenko, who is the head of Elders District in Antonivka, Kherson region, Truth Hound representative. Vitaly Poberezhny, they are the partners of this wonderful event and our wonderful partners. So unfortunately, one of our speakers has had an accident in the airport and that's why she's not here. But we're going to have a special address from a speaker from Syria. He'll join us online. So we all are used to technology talk, to drone tech, to AI, to innovations during the war when it comes to combat and when comes to economic development. But we also have to ponder over the civilian component of this, especially when it comes to people who live in frontline areas or when they live in the countries where the state uses the technologies, the AI technologies, to harm rather than to aid. So we are going to discuss this narrow topic that covers a lot of neighboring spheres, from the experiences of the civilian population to the developments at the front and to war crimes, also, we'll discuss democratic development and also the means of punishment. So we're going to have several presentations. I hope it will be a fruitful panel, and I hope we'll still have time at the end, and I'm planning this for Q&A. So, Mikhailo. So for 3 years, it's been 3 years since Kherson was liberated. But the situation, we cannot call it better, improved. We are still experiencing the deterioration, especially for the civilian population and in view of the attacks that are taking place. Where are we at now? What experiences and insights can you share from Kherson, the city at the front lines? Hello, dear guests. Colleagues, friends, I am honored here to represent the city of the resilient people, the city of Kherson. So if you could bring up my presentation. So what is the city of Kherson about? Many Ukrainians, let alone Kherson residents are fully aware of the role of Kherson. This is a picturesque place next to the delta of the Dnipro river, and the center, the economic and cultural center in the south of Ukraine, which had all the chances to become a leader, and the window for the development in 2014. Following 2014, but the occupation of 2022, it really made us lag behind now. So as of November 2025, there are 70,000 people living in Hromada. And we need to acknowledge that 2/3 of people that are living in Kherson are aged over 60, so they need more support from the Hromada, from the community. 3 years ago, the armed forces of Ukraine liberated the whole left bank of the Dnipro River, but it didn't put at peace all the residents of Kherson and those who are still fighting for Ukraine at the front lines. So for the previous period in 2024, the number of shelling attacks or drone attacks was about 1,048. Then over 10 months of this year, the registered drone attacks were 4,167. Please mind you, it's not about the number of drones they used, because the armed forces of Ukraine, they are countering the drone attacks quite successfully, liquidating those drones with the different countermeasures. The drone threats, they really attack our infrastructure and they kill our people. The statistics is appalling, and over the January. From January to October, it's over 1,000 casualties, 107 children. So 813 people were attacked, and 735 people, different severity of damage was incurred. And the city, the enemy, over 3 years have been trying to level the city with the ground, and not just using different munitions. Our city has also lost much of its property when the Kakhovka Dam disaster happened. So Kakhovka is the right bank of the Dnipro River, and our right bank territories were flooded, and so over 6 meters of water level we experienced, and one of the regions of the micro districts of our city was completely flooded, and the production facilities that were based in this area, they suffered significantly. So this is just 1.1 thousandths of what the Kherson residents' homes are suffering. So compared to 2024, we see that the number of attacks has tripled, and it's been 40% more casualties. So the fires have quadrupled, and the statistics is again appalling, and the drone attacks has tripled, and blast bombs or guided missiles they have been using on us. This is powerful weapon, powerful munitions that they have been using to wipe out the whole districts of the city. And today's war is the war of new technologies, and the technologies that our enemy is using on us. They are progressing. So last year, there were last month there were 250 attacks. So in October it was much more. It was many more, and in the peak was in this August. So we had about 520 attacks. In the fall, with the fogs and poorer weather, they use the use of drones is scarcer. So what is the administration doing to protect its population? We tried to look into it in 2023, and we started installing concrete structures, gabions, but with the drones, octocopters, hectocopters. So these are killer drones, really bad killer drones. We tried to protect our highways and infrastructure objects with anti-drone nets, all the healthcare facilities and public places where they have classes with children and places for rehabilitation centers. So there are shelters, safe spaces, and also these are used for patients that need constant care. We use anti-radiation shelters for them. So the residents of Kherson truly believe in the might of the armed forces of Ukraine, and the shooting battalions. They operate in the city to shoot down drones. So what do we lack? We lack the support, even bigger support to our soldiers. So to protect the civilians against drone attacks, the attacks that take place every day on our ambulances, on our healthcare facilities and public infrastructure. So we really lack hard-skin vehicles, and the bank area of Kherson, it needs a dome, Madar came to us, the head of drone force, and he shared with us that there are new opportunities, and we hope that these opportunities will be put in practice and will lead a safer life.
Залишаємося в Херсонській області. Давайте поговоримо про дві речі. Перше, що останній місяць Херсонська область все більше і більше з'явилася в медіа через жахливий термін «людське сафарі». І якщо ми про цю проблему знали і до цього, зараз ми це чуємо в міжнародних медіа все більше. Плюс, завдяки окупації ми знаємо, що 3 роки тому це була менша проблема, ще настільки не використовувалися новітні технології для контролю за населенням, але інші частини, які залишаються під окупацією, дуже відчули на собі, яким чином репресивний апарат не тільки вбиває, а й контролює. Чи відчуваємо ми це і на рівні невеликих громад? А що ви, як староста,
Do we feel that on the in Antonivka community, when we switch to this local level? Hello to everyone. Thank you for the invitation and thank you for your support. Just briefly to give you some figures about Antonivka, this is a place on the Dnipro river bank, and now it's within the active zone. And the occupation forces, they are 2 kilometers away from our settlements, from our community. Before the full-scale invasion, we had around 13,000 people. It's 4,500 households of people, of children who were dreaming something and planning. And then the evil came. The evil that destroyed everything and is continuing to destroy still. As of today, in our community, we have around 300 people in the riverside area and around 100 people in the city area. It's Skhidne and Yantarne. And now about the key thing that is, and the key challenges. On a daily basis, our villages and communities are being shelled. Dozens of drones, dozens of robots, that are attacking the local residents and attacking their homes on a daily basis. We have injured and killed civilians. And I want everyone to understand that when it comes to the impact, what I would, it's important, but we also need to understand the reasons. Without this neighbor, we wouldn't have this war. The neighbor who decided that they are entitled to occupy, to pillage, to kill, to destroy. And all of that is still happening. And we don't see when it's going to end. Our only hope is the international community that is going to put pressure and influence this process, to make sure that people who had their dreams are now able to go back to their homes, to continue their life. And our areas, they are not only attacked by drones, they are also mined. And in recent weeks, the Russian forces started to intensify the mining process. These mines are forbidden by the international conventions, but on a daily basis they are doing that. When it comes to further steps and our vision, again, we hope that we will be supported by the armed forces of Ukraine. They are defending us, defending our country, and hopefully it will end soon. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to take them. Okay, let's continue talking about the control technologies. What's your vision? Any changes compared to 2022? I'm talking about the occupation administrations and people who are still there under Russian occupation. If there is an increase in attacks, does the situation change in the temporarily occupied areas in terms of the occupation, in terms of technology use? Well, my area, my community was under occupation for half a year, and it's hard to say about how to tell about control, technology-based control. Mostly, they used brutal force, physical force, and intimidation. But now, given this situation and seeing what's going on, the occupied areas, the influence of the occupiers, they are stepping up the control and surveillance. They're installing CCTV and monitoring the and if trying to survey people, so it's really hard for people. Let me also follow up. Before being the head of the administration, I was in another administration, and in Kherson Rayon, we have 4 temporarily occupied communities, Oleshkivka and other village communities that are on the left bank. And as part of my job in the previous administration, I was in touch with the left bank communities on a continuous basis. And this is what Hanna is saying. The pressure in the occupied areas is stepping up every day. And my question is to the audience. We are all living in the information space. Have you seen naked men on the checkpoints manned by Ukrainian armed forces? Never. You haven't seen that. But in the occupied areas, this is a continuous humiliation of people. Men are forced to strip and phones are taken away to check the apps they have. If we are talking about the left bank, the so-called head of Kherson Oblast, Saldo, with the capital S, he introduced the 15-kilometer security zone, allegedly taking care of civilian security. But basically, it's because the true patriots, they continued to resist and supplied information to the armed forces of Ukraine. That's why they created this zone, where civilians are not allowed, where there is no food, no hygiene products, no gas and power. And the areas that were affected by the Kakhovka Dam flood, this area was huge, but though restoration activities have been conducted, no basic things have been restored, like water, gas. Nobody did that. The enemy is blocking all well-known messengers, and basically it's impossible to get any information from the left bank areas. And what is lacking there is the healthcare. The enemy is not interested in taking care of the residents, in making sure that they can get healthcare services. People are just on their own, and even the medicines that they are able to get there from the temporarily occupied Crimea, they are more detrimental than helping people. Thank you.
I'll turn to English in this way. We are moving from Ukraine to Myanmar, which is 1,000 kilometers apart. However, unfortunately, also not with the peaceful times, and in the news, not with the culinary shows, but with the difficulties for the ordinary people. What can we learn from the Myanmar experience of the last, let's say, few decades? Yep. And definitely, what is the role of the new technologies in all those processes?
Hello, thank you. And thank you for your questions, and thank you to the organizers for organizing such an important event and for the opportunity having me here and share my research. So I'd like to talk about how drone warfare is shaping the conflict, and I'm selected the case of Myanmar. Before continue, I'd like to talk about the organization I work for, because I will be using the data for my discussion. So it is important to introduce ACLAT. So ACLAT is a conflict monitoring organization. We monitor conflicts around the world. So ACLA collects information in over 100 local languages and from over 5,000 sources. And we have recorded over 1.5 million events from every country in the world. And we produce real-time data used by journalists, academics, and human rights, peace, and policy-making organizations. We have a clear, transparent methodology, which basically allowed us to compare different contexts, as, for example, Ukraine and Myanmar. So this is an overview of drone use in Asia Pacific. So as you can see in the map, these are the top 5 countries that use drones in the conflict. And Myanmar ACLED records over 4,000 events for Myanmar, and followed by Pakistan, Afghanistan, India, and Indonesia. So these basically these drone attacks are largely linked to armed struggles against state forces, and on some occasions, state-on-state contacts like Pakistan and India. So in the region, Myanmar ranks the first, and globally, Myanmar ranks third, following Russia and Ukraine in the use of drones in conflict. This is a zooming in for the drone usage in Myanmar. So some of you might not know where Myanmar is. It is between China and India, and also it borders with Laos and Thailand in the southeast, and with Bangladesh in the west. So as I mentioned, there were over 4,000 drone attacks in Myanmar, and as you can see, it's almost across the country. So over 1,000 drone attacks are in the context of battles, and over 3,000 are independent drone strikes. And among them, about 10% are like deliberate civilian targeting events, and that led to at least over 500 civilian fatalities. So how do we get to this point? A bit of background for those who are unfamiliar with Myanmar. So in February 2021, military state took coup and overthrew the democratically elected government. People took to the streets and protested against the coup. Some civil servants quit their job and joined the civil disobedience movement. People engaged in non-cooperation with the military, but military responded with the lethal and excessive force against the protester, and that led to armed resistance movement. So to skip, fast forward, who are fighting in Myanmar? So we have now over 3,000 armed groups fighting the Myanmar military, but you can group into 2. One is the ethnic armed groups. They've been fighting since the independence from British colonial rule in 1947. They demand for greater autonomy. And new groups are anti-coup armed groups. They founded after the military state coup. They demand to restore the democracy. But in this current conflict, these 2 groups are coming together under the goal of defeating the military. Here in this presentation, I will refer them to as resistance group. So now conflict has escalated into a full-blown civil war. But fundamentally, this war is state military forces, sorry for the typo, using excessive force and waging asymmetric war against its own civilians. And there are 2 dimensions in this conflict. One is the political repression, one is war. So the war is ongoing. Some of my colleagues asked me if they can visit Myanmar. Yes, you can visit Myanmar if you avoid the conflict zone, but you can still be arrested, because there is a political repression, there is a digital surveillance. If you react like or love reactions to critic posts that criticize military, you can go to jail, basically. So this whole conflict is, after all, fundamentally a democracy movement. So this is the current situation. It's a full-blown war, like I said. The conflict has spread across the country, nearly 90,000 dying, both soldiers, resistance groups, and civilians. So over 90% of Myanmar population are now exposed to the conflict. But by the end of 2024, resistance group actually make some gains. They capture over 90 towns and capture around 350 locations in Myanmar, thanks to drones technology. So I will go into the drone used by resistance group. As I mentioned, resistance group, they don't have military bases, they don't have command structure, they don't have any resources. So drones are the only weapons that they can fight against the powerful military. So Myanmar military ranks number 4 most powerful army in Southeast Asia in 2020. And resistance groups, they have no resources, so they've been forced to innovate and come up with new ideas. They started producing landmines, water mines, guns, and then drone bombs. And they've been upgrading the commercial drones to attack the military. And as you can see, they've been using the plastic body bombs. And these are fixed-wing drones they adapted and invented. Of course, it's nowhere near Ukrainian fixed-wing drones. And this is a one-way attack drones as well, not because they're highly fully functional, it's just that it has only capacity to attack one way. So this is the most important turning point. In the military did not use any drones in the beginning of the war, but after they lost many territories to resistance groups, they started investing in their drone capabilities. So what they do is that they get support from China, Russia, Belarus, and India to increase their drone capabilities. Now they have access to military-grade Iranian, Chinese, and Russian-made drones, and also they can customize using upgraded features like night vision, infrared sensing, and thermal vision. And they also updated their air defense system. They can now install jamming devices in almost all the military bases. They've been receiving technology and the training from all these countries. They have a joint center to train the military soldiers in Myanmar. And so as you can see in the graph, resistance group started using the drones and they've been winning the war. And in late 2024, you can see the green line, military is catching up their drones capabilities, and now they are only increasing. And then, as you can see, resistance drone use also like declining. And the reason is with the support of China, Myanmar military was able to close the border gates and was able to block the supply chains that's going to resistance group. That include blocking the dual-use items export. And now resistance groups cannot even buy batteries. The price, of course, also soar. So in the past, they can create a drone with like $500. Now, if to create the similar drones, they have to use like $6,000. And that's explain the graph. And what's more important here is the military air defense system actually harming the civilians. Firstly, military target civilians with their drones. Second, their air defense systems basically disrupt the frequencies of resistance group drones, and actually, when they crash and attack or drop on the civilian areas and killing civilians. And that's another reason the resistance groups stop using drones in the current war. And this talk is about the modern technology. The Myanmar military is adding new aerial aircrafts, although they are not high-tech technology. They've been adding paramotors to their air fleet. So paramotors are power motor paragliders that are used for recreational purposes. You can see in Phuket in Thailand, but that is weaponized in Myanmar. I can show you the picture. So you can see these are paramotors. Myanmar military locally produced with the foreign components, and they can mount 860 millimeter bombs. And actually, paramotors is a gap between the drones and the military fighter jets. They can fly longer, and they can manually drop drones, and actually very precise and very lethal. And it can bypass the jamming. So when military turn on the jammers in their military base and they gotta attack some resistant groups, and they use the paramotors. It's another option. And then they use gyrocopters now to bomb on people. That is another type of vehicles, but more weather resistance. So here, as you might spot the Ukrainian flag. That was a protest, flash mob protest organized in Yangon in March 2022. Russian deputy defense minister was in Myanmar at the time to attend a military parade. And young people took to the street and protest. Basically, their message is they stand with Ukraine, and they are against all kinds of dictatorships. The story here, the key message here is that what we are seeing now is the drone arms race in Asia-Pacific region. Because of Myanmar military intense use of drones and all kinds of air strikes, it also indirectly pressure Thai military to keep up with their drone technologies and air defense systems. And also, not many countries are not putting a lot of effort to uphold UN humanitarian law and international law. So we are seeing drone arms race and race for air defense system, but not a lot of effort for the control regime. And then in terms of the impacts on civilians, in Myanmar case in particular, this is the conflict about legitimacy competition. And military is deliberately attacking civilians to terrorize them, to lose support for resistance groups, and that includes conducting drone strikes, air strikes on religious events, weddings, and monasteries, churches, and all that. So I think we all have to put more effort to protect civilians. That's the example of Myanmar case. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Vitaly, we have heard three different presentations, but the topic is the same. Modern technologies that are not aiding the development, but aiding the war. So there has been a unique research that has been completed by Hounds. So what do we share, or what is unique in the Ukrainian on the Ukrainian grounds? Or after we have heard, so the experiences we have, will they be useful globally? Something that we need to be aware of threats, to document things in the correct way. So what is your research all about, and what are the findings? So in terms of it being comprehensive, this Ukrainian experience, I think that it's quite useful and valuable. So these drones are the effective technology that has proved efficient, and it will be used further on and used in different countries of the world. And the Myanmar case is quite telling. This technology is very cheap. These small drones, FPV drones and kamikaze drones are cheap, and they can be produced easily. So these are drones that you can make by using on the $100 budget, and but there are drones that the production of which cost over 30,000. But these so there are the high precision drones, and the drone operator, they have the access to the video, so that they can see the landscape and the environment, and the drone operator operates the drone exactly until the moment of the attack, and they can see and they can monitor what exactly the drone is attacking. But despite these small or short-range drones are so high precision, but they still pose risks to civilians, and the number of casualties in the civilian population in Ukraine, it has been increasing. And on the one hand, we've come up with a new technology that helps us monitor everything that is going on in combat, but on the other hand, it doesn't aid but hamper the civilians. So a little bit of statistics here. So this is the statistics from the UN. This is part of the UN monitoring. So it shows that the number of civilians that were attacked, it has grown, and the number of the killed and wounded because of the killer drones attacks, it has increased. And this is the data that we have received from Nikopol Municipal Council. We can see that there's weapons has turned out to be even more devastating. So this is on the situation in Nikopol city. So the number of drones has increased, but the number of attacks, artillery strikes, it has artillery strikes has decreased. So we can see the statistics for June that the drone attacks have increased compared to the artillery strikes. And in fact, we have reached out to many administrations, but Nikopol City Council was the only authority that decided to share their statistic. So the number of drones have increased, and of course the number of fatalities, they have increased proportionally. So we also have some statistics from the Dnipro bank, and so this is near Nikopol, and Dnipro is here, the front line, and Ukrainian and Russian military, they are separated by the river, and so this section of the front is the least active one. So because of the barrier, the Dnipro river, which is the biggest river in Ukraine, all the bridges have been ruined, and so the presence of other sections of the front is lower, and the number of attacks is lower correspondingly. But the lower section of the Dnipro River, we can see the disproportionate statistics in terms of civilian casualty. And this human safari term, it probably was conceived in Kherson region. I was the first one to read the reports from Kherson where this term emerged. That's what it looks like. The civilian population is being hunted down. And this paradox caught our attention. Why in the part of the front where the number of civilian with the low intensity of combat, relatively low, the casualties rate is so high. In fact, I'm going to bring up a video. Let's see if it works. It does. I'll comment. In fact, what you have seen, this is the video that was on one of Russian publics in Telegram, and you could see here an attack of Russian drones on one of Antonivka villages, and in the description, it was as though they were targeting 2 soldiers, and the caption was that there is no way out, there is no escape, we'll catch up on you. And I was in Kherson, and we were interviewing the victims of drone attacks, and we talked to the son of the man. And his father was one of the 2. And the son explained that those were not the soldiers, they were not the military, but those were the civilians, 2 civilians in the video. And this is just a telling sign on how Russians lie. They call military everyone they attack, even though these are civilians. And so they just say that all the people that were talk in Antonivka, in Kherson, are military. So this is, in fact, the Telegram channel that covers Mariupol to the Carpathian region, and these channels are many that distort the reality, and the drone case is particular because this violence it strikes me. You have this mighty weapons. You can tell between the military and the civilians. You have an opportunity to use it in focused attacks because you have more time. You don't have to hold defense because this is the war of positions. But they don't care because probably we don't see any intentions from their on their end to verify information, to be careful, and quite often these attacks are special purpose attacks. Why would you call the fire? Why would you attack the firefighters? But they are drone operators. They can see exactly who they target. And the drone attacks, drone warfare is especially violent, and it's high precision technology, and this could aid, protect the civilians, but it's not happening that way because all these, approaches are violated because it's some sort of lost opportunity to protect the lives of the civilians, people's lives. I just also wanted to explain how the experiences from the frontline communities can be useful, like Kherson, Nikopol. They have come up with ideas, the patterns to counter drone attacks, and it can be scaled up or used in other states, so like using anti-drone nets, drone detectors, Telegram channels where they post updates on coming drone attacks. This is something that makes it possible to protect people's lives, and this can be a comprehensive experience for other regions where drones are a threat or can be a potential threat. So if we started talking of drone protection measures, let me ask Mikhailo and Serhiy, so what can we really do on the level of administrations, authorities? So can we really factor in the pace of the development of these technologies in our reactions? What can people do? What can the civilians do? Because authorities cannot always cover it all. So how do people protect themselves? Serhiy. So, in fact, this is a set of measures directed at life preservation. So I think that the first one is the easiest one, is just to the warning systems, or maybe in the first place, these are chat groups created by the military administrations that post updates to warn the civilian population. Then the next one is anti-drone nets or drone detectors. There are a lot of producers, manufacturers, and unfortunately these technologies swiftly develop. That's why we have to revisit which measures are work better, and so the shooting battalions, and after I was wounded for the second time, I bought a drone detector and a rifle. Of course, not every person can afford to buy those, but those saved me from the third attack that was inflicted. Unfortunately, the connectivity, the internet connectivity, is just we don't have it. The Russian army, they eliminated everything, and it's difficult for our civilian population to receive information. That's why the sirens is the only way is to receive the updates. Thank you, Vitaly, for bringing up the number of related issues, because we will be hunting, we will be appealing to the international community for many years on, so that everyone who targets a civilian population or a firefighter or a paramedic is held accountable. So this is a murder. This is a killing. This is not just using an artillery munitions. This is just hunting down people, intentional. So there was the time where the M14 highway between Kherson and Mykolaiv cities was taken under control, and this was a very important logistical route. This was just a well-maintained highway that we use for deliveries, and in joint efforts, especially from the armed forces of Ukraine, this section is covered by anti-drone nets, and the shooting battalions are active, and the powerful electronic warfare means have been installed, and I mean that Hola Pristan Hromada of Skadovsk region that is under occupation, it also aids them because it's impossible to hunt down civilian vehicles on this section of the highway. But there were cases where the Russians were hunting down just anyone, even civilians. We have the proofs that these people that they hunted down had no relation to the military. But of course, the anti-drone nets are good to protect against small drones, but for bigger munitions, you see, they can really get through, and this is an ongoing battle.
The Russian Federation, we know that other countries are learning the experience. Simon, if we turn to Asia, Russia shared experience a lot with different countries in the region. And we see the increased use of drones in different border clashes and in the supply. Can you predict that we will see more and more of the drone use in Asian conflicts? And what can be the measures for us, not only lessons learned, but also how we can improve the situation if 40 years ago we signed conventions about anti-personal mines, for example, or signed something about nuclear weapons. Can we have something about drones usage against the civilians?
Again, thanks for the questions. I don't really have the answer, to be honest. A lot of recommendations are made, but then they're not being considered for a lot of reasons. But yes, we are likely to see more drone use in conflicts in Asia. Even countries like Singapore, which has no conflicts at all, not engaging in any wars with any countries, they started training the drone use in their military because they feel like they are left behind. In recent Thailand-Cambodia conflicts, we saw drone use. And, you know, there are many factors at play, like geopolitics and everything. So there is such thing like drone diplomacy where countries are not only supporting these technologies and everything, but they are shaping the conflicts of the particular country. If Myanmar case says something, it's like basically these international countries are determining who's going to win the war. They intervene, they provided the drones and technologies, and then whichever side they support is likely to win the war. And probably we could put more effort to. One thing I noticed that many states are not talking about how to use drones to protect civilians because drones can save lives. We've seen that during the earthquake in Myanmar, many countries, Cambodia, Thailand, Singapore, Malaysia, they send the drones to save people, to rescue people who are trapped in the earthquake rubrics. But states are not discussing how to use drones to save lives, but how to win the combat. And so that's one thing. And another thing is that when militaries use drones, even though they know that they are civilians, they always justify. They have a lot of justification, like civilians are among the resistance groups, among the rebel groups. Even using thermal vision, where it shows a crowd of people with no guns in the image, but they stay attacked because they consider that this amount of people, a group of people, if they are gathering at one point, they might be the armed groups. So there's drone attacks, drone use can stay distinguish whether these are civilians or armed groups, but then militaries or armed groups are still using it without even putting effort to distinguish that. So I'm not really sure what can we do to recommend and to suggest to stop this.
Thank you very much.
And now we have an opportunity to ask questions.
The audience, we can give a microphone from here.
Hello. At the beginning, the moderator said about the accountability and responsibility. I wanted to talk a little bit about that. My name is Taras Cimbrivsky. I'm from Agency Military Expert Group under the General Prosecutor Office of Ukraine, and today we have quite a lot of evidence of the drones being used, including FPV drones being used against the civilian population. And for example, Deutsche Welle prepared a publication regarding FPV drones being used in Berislav in 2023 and 2024. There are a couple of thematic reports around this issue issued by the UN. The recent one is in 25th of October this year. So we know that this issue is really topical, and this is what we can call a crime. It's a crime probably against humanity, and there is evidence of and elements of systemic nature. For example, those stories of children that our panelists were talking about, and other sources. Probably we will not be able to identify every drone operator, but at the same time we can take a wider perspective how to identify the specific military units targeting civilians. For example, Deutsche Welle, in their publication, they talked about Bars 33 military unit, and I think there are many examples like that. And this is a quite promising pathway how to this the identification of military units and holding at least commanders accountable, because they should have known that their operators, their subordinates, are targeting civilians and testing these weapons. This is what the Deutsche Welle publication says. So this effort is ongoing, and the law enforcement bodies of Ukraine are working on this issue, and I think that as far as this issue goes, we still have a lot of work to do. Thank you. Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Please raise your hand.
Вітаю.
Linia Ibragimova, I'm an activist. My question is as follows. In terms of technologies, there is a UAV, AutoGIR, and you may have heard of it. It was made by our Ukrainian engineers in 2019, but it never went any further, even though our forces would really do with such a device, but unfortunately it wasn't then further used for mass production, but it's good because it can be used for as air defense. So is there a request like that? Has there been a request to find funding to support the production of this type of drone, because for the military and the civilians, because a civilian can be licensed can get a license to operate this drone in 30 days, and civilians can be taught, can be instructed on how to use these drones, also against the Russian munitions. Well, let me rephrase this. Putting it, using it in the military, this is more about protecting the military. But we have also discussed the shooting battalions. So especially referring to the areas that are under constant attacks. So do we really need it, and on which scale? So do we look for new technologies, non-stop, or do we start using what we have already now to improve the situation of the civilian population? So let me take it from the Kherson perspective. You can never get too many of the shooting battalions because this is an axiom. true for the current situation. While the war is ongoing, yes, they are of different significance, maybe for different sectors. Of course, in the rare, and in my opinion, even though I'm not a military person, even though I represent a military administration, but this is a different category and different capacity. But in our region, when it comes to civilians, the civilians that can show quick reaction and reaction. So we know that there is a powerful organization, the recruitment hunters. Its title can be translated, but these are former law enforcement officers. Many of them were just into hunting, and that's what they did. In fact, they just found their rifles that they kept at homes, and they sit in their vehicles and they go to the fields and hunt down drones, shoot down drones. That's a great example of self-organization among the civilians. Yeah, they cannot find in the bank areas. We discussed that the routes of the drones are through communities, through hromadas, through the forest areas, and there our groups are quite effective. So I cannot really effectively comment on what you said. I have a different background, but we are in constant touch with these shooting battalions, and we receive the updates, and we have the examples where Ukrainian drones reach the military objects 50 kilometers away from the contact line, and the initial range where the initial programmed range was 30 kilometers. So one clarification. We started discussing engaging with the civilian population in countering the drone attacks. So this is quite a subtle matter of the human rights sphere. So how is it a potential solution for Ukraine if we can engage with the civilian population on a larger scale to counter those smaller attacks, shaheeds, not shaheeds of course, but at least with whatever potential they have? Or are we stepping on the ground that needs to be legally well regulated? So in fact I can speak of the legal aspect, or how legal it is from the standpoint of the international law when civilians are the subjects in the conflict, or is it okay if volunteers are using jammers? On the one hand they are protecting themselves, on the other hand they are countering they're standing in the way of drone attacks of the Russians. No, I cannot. I'm not a lawyer myself, but I have talked a lot to our lawyers from the Truth Hound. They say that an attack on a volunteer that is using a RAB on their vehicle to deliver humanitarian aid or to do the evacuation measures, this is not okay, because for this attack to be legitimate, it's drone jamming. So for this attack to be legitimate, this civilian volunteer should have the means to counter the drone, but their in fact, they have the different intention, yes, to protect themselves. And then from the standpoint of the international humanitarian law, when civilians counter the Russian drones, it can be justified from the legal standpoint because it's not an intention to counter the Russian drone, but the intention is to protect the life. And there was a situation in Antonivka when a Russian drone attacked a vehicle of a volunteer, and this volunteer had a dome wrap, and that in fact what provoked the attack. And that's then the enemy said, oh, he's using the jammer, and he's standing in our way. But in fact, no, he was protecting his vehicle, the volunteer, and protecting the 5 civilians that he was evacuating. So we need to keep this in mind. But in the situation when a civilian is countering an attack, it can be provocative. And then not justified, but then using a jammer can trigger a Russian drone, and so this is quite a delicate situation, and I don't have a straightforward answer. But we worked in the fields, and we saw civilians use different countermeasures, jammers, the anti-drone nets, and the rifles, and the artillery, and we saw that it could be effective because this is about protecting your life, not about standing in the way of an enemy attack. Well, thank you. We're thankful to our panelists, and our next speaker is ready to join us, and he is going to share his experience of the conflict that is coming to an end, we hope. Just one last remark. So we have been here with you for about 1.5 hours discussing things. There is a working group on registering drones that are entering the Hromada, and while we were talking, 12 drones entered the airspace of Kherson Hromada. 2 of them inflicted attacks. Whereas what their targets was or where they hit, I don't have this information. So this is what they're doing now. Unfortunately, unfortunately, we couldn't end this panel on a positive note because the war is ongoing. That's why we're not going to have any positive news around the impacts, but we still know that the armed forces of Ukraine are capable of developing their own technologies, capable of protecting the civilian population of Ukraine, and we hope that this is the experience, the lessons learned that that are useful and can be useful globally. So let's thank our panelists.
You can stay here or you can leave, and I'm going to introduce our next speaker. The conflict that was on the part of the headlines along with Ukraine. This is a long year conflict in Syria. Over the last half a year, we are talking and hoping that there will be certain changes, certain improvements in this area, and we shared a lot of negative experience of the chemical weapons being used against civilians and other weapons used against civilians. But now we have a hope that we will also be able to sharing our experience regarding renovation, recovery, and reconstruction. The Syrian conflict involved a number of actors. The same actors that are active in Ukraine. That's why we had some similarities. Now, if it's technically possible, if the technical team is ready, now I will be happy to introduce Asad Al-Lechi, Syrian media and free expression of opinions center. Let us give a couple of minutes to restore the connection. Okay, probably we will switch places. We will go to have a coffee break, and we'll get back here at 20 past 4 to listen to our Syrian speaker.